Is your stove destroying the planet? Even I'm slightly embarrassed by that clickbaity title, but I've been looking for stoves that are more green because I'm trying to not destroy the planet and leave no trace. And I've been looking at 3 different stoves to see whether this is really the best option. As I say, I've been trying to find the greenest stove because these things, the gas canister stoves, are just full of hydrocarbons. They are fossil fuels, basically natural gas or petroleum based. And also these tins, not very recyclable. It's been a long process. Initially I started with this thing, which is the BioLite, and it's just way too heavy. It's a stove which is a fan assisted, and it's got even charge your then phone. You can charge a modern phone from this, but it's a wood stove. It is very green because you could just use sticks, although these are kebab sticks from the kitchen. Because we've had so much rain here, I can't use the sticks from the garden, otherwise I would do that. The idea is you can find sticks and pine cones, you know, and as you walk along, and fuel's everywhere, but obviously that only works if you are in an area which has lots of wood. Right, yes, demonstration time. More Blue Peter. We're going to try and light it. I'm using cotton wool for the tinder. You can use, you know, anything, bits of paper. As I found on my holiday, is it burns incredibly quickly. It doesn't easily boil water. It will after a while, but it takes a long time to do that. I was just putting in lots and lots and lots and lots of twigs and things like that to get it to even do anything. And what I'm using as fuel, what I had then, was actually kitty litter, wooden compressed kitty litter, which is a lot cheaper than those barbecue maple flakes you can get. So let's see if we can light this. This is all where it's probably going to go incredibly wrong. See if this actually burns. This is where my scout training does not come in useful.
Some time later.
I think it might actually be burning. Hey! How about that? Well, whether it actually will light the sticks, I don't know. It seems to be. It's actually burning. And so I took this on a holiday in October, which was also not the best choice because I didn't have all the right gear. You might notice is how top heavy it is. Let's put some water. Let's see if we can boil some water. This might be too hot for the, as I said in the previous video, this might be too hot for the aluminium. I don't have the top for this, so that's probably a bad idea. Yep. Let's put the top on. You can see it burns very quickly. It's burnt through most of the fuel already, and also rather singed my handle on my titanium pot. That's alright. You have to kind of feed it little twigs, and it's not so easy to put these things in either. It's very hot. Do that. It's very involved. So you can see it's sooty, not sweet. It blackens your pots. It actually might be boiling. Let's have a look. No. Yes, it's rather a intensive method to cook. I found this is a titanium wood stove, wood gas stove, very similar, if not, you know, it doesn't have the fan and the battery, but you know, similar idea of drawing in air, although because it doesn't have the fan, it makes it very hard to get started really, especially if it's wet. Here it's not too bad because it's a dry day, although it has been chucking it down, and I made sure the fuel was dry. But the difficulty is getting the fuel dry, keeping it dry. I was hoarding loads of twigs. It's gone out. It's gone out, yeah. And let's have a look at the water. Sort of not a rolling ball. And so just to get any cooking done was really hard with this stove. It's a real pain. Although the stove itself, which can be used with alcohol stoves, although it would be very far away, more than an inch away from the alcohol stove. So it's not ideal. You can use it like that as sort of a multi-fuel stove, or maybe even being titanium, you could probably use, I assume, use solid fuel and things like that in it. So it is fun, but in practice, it's just so much work to actually, especially if it's wet. But even then, I found that pine cones didn't burn, which they're supposed to. They just refused, and it was just too stressful. And you know, you ended up with lukewarm coffee and things like that. So not so great. So the other option, apart from obviously our trusty MSR, which is we're trying to avoid because planet. Although again, this is a series of videos about green issues and hiking. This is one of at least two. And I don't want to preach at people about, oh, you should do this. But you know, we all kind of use electricity and use things, and you know, we're not living in a shack in the middle of nowhere. But it's good, I think, to reduce the amount of damage to the planet as much as possible. So the second option, and I avoided this for a long time, and this is the first time I'm using it, so we'll see how we go. And that is an alcohol stove, which is a recent purchase. And this is the Speedster alcohol stove with a simmering. We're not simmering today. It's very hot though. It did get the outside of the pot very hot. But yes, anyway. I've made my own stand, because the thing about alcohol stoves is this is a burner and you need to keep it things about an inch above from it. So you can buy expensive titanium stands, but I made one from a coat hanger. And it's just 3 pieces of bent wire connected together by copper tape. You could use maybe aluminium tape, or I've seen people do this where they use bits of tubing or anything cylindrical to sort of put things together, or even sort of bent together or anything like that. So this is going to go in here. I'll probably do a hand cam for this. So the fuel I've chosen for this is bioethanol. This is actually these little squeezy bottles that I have for my nib cleaner for my pens. But you could use contact solution bottles, mouthwash bottles, anything like that. Anything that will store alcohol really, or will probably be fine with alcohol, which is pretty much all plastics apart from poly. Pretty much every plastic will store fuel. So I've never tried this. This is going to be fun. We're now going to add some alcohol to it. And inside the stove there is a ceramic wool, or sometimes you can get them with carbon. And I don't know how much to use. The nice thing about this is when it's cool, you can just put the top back on and then use it again, so you don't waste the fuel. The carbon felt or the ceramic, if you knock it over, it won't spill everywhere. One of the problems of existing stoves, the other type, is that they will spill fuel everywhere, and that's really dangerous. And everything going boom! So you don't really want a fireball. So that's one of the good things about this type of stove. It's called Kojin stove, and it is very efficient. You don't need to prime it. The thing with Triangiers and other types of stove is you have to prime them, and you waste a certain amount of fuel waiting for all the jets to come out, and this one doesn't do that. It's a simpler design, it's less to go wrong. And as I say, I bought the version with the simmering, so we can simmer as well, though I'm going to try and boil some water. Of course, this whole thing is a bit of a proof and process. As I say, I've never done this before. I've never used an alcohol stove before, so the wood stove worked fine. This could go very, very wrong. Watch to see me burst into flames, children. Let's do 500 ml. This, obviously, the alcohol stoves are a slower method. But one thing that's really important with an alcohol stove, which is a windshield, because much smaller flame, it's a slower method, and the important thing, even on a day like this, there's hardly any wind, it's important to have a windshield. This is made out of foil platters and a bit of foil pie dish. One thing to remember about alcohol stoves is the flame is invisible. So when I light this, it's going to probably going to be hard to see that it's even lit. Ah, you can see a flame there. You can actually see a flame. Yay! So let's put this on. And this just slots in here. Whatever, naturally, you might not need the stand. It sort of seems to stand. You see, it holds it up because of the way I've designed it. So you could probably get away with not having the stand, but I have to stand there just for safety. Let's put the top on. Didn't even get a rolling boil from the other one. So let's time it and see what happens. I'm interested to know myself how long something might take to boil. I don't know if I put enough fuel in, so at least like one person I might not set fire to my tent or almost. Which is the reason for, I would say, testing it like this in your garden. I mean, it's a bit of a dumb thing to say in a way, because it's like, well, of course, Tim, test things. But, you know, with this sort of thing, I think you definitely do need to make sure you're comfortable with it, use it a few times, and then see if it's good for you. The reason why I'm using bioethanol and not meths is because meths is poisonous. Methylated spirits is methanol and ethanol. It's denatured spirit. Bioethanol is pure ethanol. Methylated spirits has got methanol and sometimes methyl ethyl ketone. Bitrex, I think this might have Bitrex in it or something like that, which is that bitter taste to make sure people don't drink it. You should not drink it in bioethanol because it's 96% proof. If you can find what's called rectified spirit, grain alcohol, that's drinkable although you obviously don't drink it neat because you have to mix it because it's so proof, but I can't get it in this country. You can get it very expensively by mail order or online. It's about 38 quid a bottle. Methylated spirits. Methanol is toxic. If you get it in your hands and you breathe it in, it's poisonous. Ethanol isn't, even when burning. Butanone is an irritant, and Bitrex is an irritant when breathed in. So obviously you're breathing it in because of the fumes. And certainly if you're using it near a tent, that's not a good idea. I mean, we're trying to be more green here. And the nice thing about ethanol is that it's made from plants, it's renewable, it's not fossil fuels. Let's have a look. Oh, it's steaming. You see? Can you see that? Yeah. It is cooking. It's 4 minutes in. We haven't got a rolling boil yet. I'm hoping the flame is still going. And that's the one thing about ethanol, or alcohol stoves in general, is knowing how much, measuring out and knowing how much alcohol to use. And that's one of the reasons why one of the hacks is to use a night nurse or a cough mixture measure. I probably should have done it this time, but you can measure out how much you want and pour it in, or if your bottle has measures on it, that can help. And I knew mine, this is 100 ml. I know that I've probably used, don't know, not that much, maybe about 10 ml, 20 ml. Not 20 ml, maybe 10 ml. So I don't know if that was enough. That's one of the reasons for testing these things. Amazingly much more quicker than I thought it would be. These stoves usually are sort of 6, 7, 8 minutes. They can be faster. They're certainly faster with the Caldera Cone. And obviously today it's pretty wind-free. I have a feeling the flame might have gone out. So, yeah, it's gone out. Probably not enough fuel, but that's pretty good. I think I would have got a rolling boiler if I'd put more fuel in. Not as successful as I thought, but that's the thing. That's why you test these things. You test them to see how much fuel you put in. Obviously, you put in a little bit more than I put in, about maybe 5-10 mil. I probably should put in. It can hold up to 50. I should put more in. But that's a success. Given I've got this water, I thought I'd use it to make some coffee. But yeah, I've had no coffee today, so we need a cup. Aha! So yes, Oricato, folding cups. Let's see if we can. It's rude. That's rude. Let's see if we can actually put it together. If I remember how. So it's like so you put these together there. To make that. And you sort of do the same thing, I seem to remember, and fold this in, which becomes the handle. A lot of the times people get it wrong because they don't squidge the handle, which gives it more thing. But we shall see. It's meant to be. I don't trust this at all, I have to say. What's going on? Right. Why was this a failure? I don't know. I couldn't possibly say. There we are. Finally. That was fun. And the thing about these is the plastic gets soft, so I will be aware that when it might not be so great. So we've got our Primula Blue Body, and some coffee. Let's see if this works. I probably won't be using this cup in future trips, but I just thought I'd use it. Wow, it's still hot. You see, this is what I was talking about in the previous video. This is still hot, whereas the titanium cut would have been freezingly cold. In fact, we can test that. Yeah, much colder. It's still, the water's got still some warmth. The cup itself, the actual thing itself is colder. Hasn't gone cold, but it's it's still lukewarm. And I possibly put hot water on myself. And it does take a little bit with these coffee filters. You can get cheaper ones, just any coffee filter would do actually. And obviously not the disposable ones. There's some argument about those being better because of the fact these are plastic, usually plastic mesh, so it's petroleum, but yeah, certainly when you're out and about. And that's exactly what I was saying about the trade-off about being as green as possible. Ooh. That's why wood stoves are fun. Yeah, yes. You don't want to be throwing or keeping paper. I'm sure some people do. Paper filters out in the environment or carrying them with you, but I use polyester. This is partly polyester. Oh, sorry. I use I try and use recycled where I can, but the idea is it's something like this. At least the actual fuel isn't based off petrol, oil, fossil fuels. And I've made the stand. I've made this as well. So let's see if this coffee is alright. I gave it a brew for a while. We have some Nido. Hopefully it hasn't gone off. This is Nido I had on my trip. Well, seems to be alright. I know Paul Messner in a recent video was having some Nido and it smelled off. But yeah, it's a case of things like this. Dried food, yeah, if it goes off, you'll smell it. It will smell rancid. So what I grabbed, a Caldera. Although I do need to reduce the amount of sugar I'm taking, a bit like Paul Messner. So we're still going to stir it with. Yeah, coffee. And now it's all really quiet. Really. I'll stir it with my finger. Ouch. Ouch. It is quite hot. Cheers. So yes, I hope that was useful. I didn't do a demonstration of the Coleman. You've seen these. I mean, it's like why waste gas really? It's a precious resource. So yeah, I would say that's a success for the alcohol stove. It's not. One of the things you've got to remember about the alcohol stove is that it's great, brilliant for short trips. You'll see aforementioned Paul Messner and other people using it, and I think the reason why I wanted to use it was the stealth aspect. But the problem with it is that once you've got over a couple of days worth, maybe about 4 or 5 days, this suddenly has to be a big bottle, because you saw I put like maybe 10 ml in, maybe less than 10 ml, and it did boil the water, but not a rolling boil, to get, if you were cooking or although simmering uses less fuel because you can simmer. And one of the tips for simmering is you use a tea light candle case. If you've got a tea light candle and you put some of this in, you can actually just simmer very gently. And I will do that when I go out with this. I will take a one of those for simmering, but I've got the simmering as well. That uses less fuel, but for boiling water, if you're doing it, say, twice a day, and saying it uses 20 mils, and that was maybe about 5 or 10. So say if you wanted to, get it into a proper boil, 20 mils, that soon counts up. And certainly if you start then cooking as well, and maybe that uses 50 mil or 40 mil for that. You do the maths. It starts to become that this would be maybe a day or two's worth of fuel. This is 100 mil. So then you've got to, if you're going for more than a couple of days, you'd have to have like a 200 mil, 300 mil bottle. Then it starts to get, you lose the advantage of just being able to take the fuel and not a big canister or forage for so much twigs and then find that you can't find any, or that you've got this big pile of twigs and you've used them all just to cook a, you know. I'm sure somebody in the comments will tell me I'm doing it wrong. This is what happened last time. You're doing it wrong. Apparently I'm poisoning the planet by suggesting aluminium, which is crazy. You use what's useful to you, but I think for short trips this is very good, and as long as you're safe about the alcohol, although given the fact that the canisters can explode if you get them too hot, and that has happened, it's a scary thing. I weirdly feel a bit safer with that, actually, because apart from the whole thing about, you know, the sort of the stealth flame, and the fact that the reason why you want something that is got a spout. Oh, it's come off. Great. There we are. Magic. You something that's got a spout like that you can just sort of squeeze in what you need, or measure it out in a cup like that, is important just for safety, because you obviously don't want to pour it in and then have it spill everywhere, and you know, because wherever the ethanol goes, that's where the flame goes, so you do not want to do that. But I've always been worried about the puncture risks and the explosion risks, even though it's minor with the gas canister, it's still there. And not happy about the fossil fuels. So I think it's better for that, and better for short trips, and for stealth trips. Am I saying don't use your gas stove? Not at all. But what I'm saying is that maybe think about using the alternate methods for the planet, and for things to be a bit less fossil fuel based. So yeah, I think I have found my go-to more ethical, greener stove now. So, and I will be using that on future trips. My trips, I'm not going to do these 2-week trips anyway. If I was doing a 2-week trip, I would take the gas canister, because it is, you know, for the weight per fuel for a long trip, it's this. I wish there was an alternative. I wish there was something. I know, you know, there's like petrol. Obviously, petrol, that's just even worse. That's more hydrocarbons, more fossil fuels. White gas, kerosene. There are other stoves, but these are the 3 main ones, I think. Main ones I've tried anyway. And I think there really isn't really much of a greener one than that and that. But as I say, that one, or a campfire. If you're in a place where you can do a campfire, and obviously if I'm stealth camping, which I will be in future, campfire is a big no. Just no, it's too visible, and it can damage the land, leaving no trace. Yeah, if you're in an area, in a situation where you can use a campfire, and you've got access to bigger logs and dried wood, then great, go for it. That is another way of some renewable resource. I'm sure I'll get comments about this as well. Burning things will always create some form of pollution. It's just the way things are. But the bioethanol was amazingly clean. I thought there would be more fumes. You could smell something, but it wasn't like what I'd expect with meths and some of the other things. Certainly wasn't like that, which is just like black soot everywhere and black hands, you know, black pots. So I think I've covered everything. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's been a real faff to do because the weather's been shit. I wanted to go out and do a trip recently, but it's just been, we have Storm Babbitt, and so it's been really shit weather-wise. Today is an unusual day where it's actually sunny, but it's going to be chucking it down again apparently in the next couple of days. So I hope to get out and do a trip, do a sort of a winter, well, sort of a autumn to winter trip, and see if my improvements, my down bag, my better mattress, and all of that is and I've even got one of those picnic blankets you can get from China, which are aluminium, as a sort of an extra layer, sort of an extra R layer for my mattress to go underneath or on top to help reflect some more heat. But I've got an R rating of 4 on my Trail Pro, so it should be good. It should be okay this time compared to this trip, which was in October, using this stove, and I was using stuff which was barely one season. It was an old Caramel bag and an old Van Gogh mattress, and had no idea about R ratings, and I was cold. I think this time would be fine, but we'll see. That's the idea of that gear, is to, you know, be able to go camping in more weathers, and my down jacket and that sort of stuff. This is what I've been building up to. So we want to do that and try and do more camping throughout the year. It's just a shame the British weather is just not that good. It's outside of a month of summer, if you're lucky. So anyway, I'll speak to you soon. Cheers. Hopefully that worked, and hopefully it hasn't died.